At the base of the capital's Grand Mosque sits a woman in a wooden box. She is forced to wear coarse, tattered clothes and endure a window that never closes, so that every person entering the building can spit in her face. This is the Sultana of Persia, enduring a lifetime sentence of public humiliation decreed by her own husband. This scale of punishment suggests a crime against the crown itself. One would assume the Sultana was caught in an act of high treason or a violent plot to overthrow the Sultan. However, her imprisonment is the aftermath of a perfectly executed, multi-generational royal conspiracy, one that successfully framed an innocent woman for a crime that never happened. The sabotage began when the Sultan chose to marry his youngest sister-in-law. Consumed by jealousy, her two older sisters spent the next 3 years waiting for the perfect moment to dismantle her life. As the Sultana gave birth to 3 successive children, the sisters systematically stole the infants. Each baby was placed in a basket and sent floating away down a dark canal. They replaced the children with a puppy, a cat, and a log of wood, telling the Sultan his wife had given birth to animals. In a blind, unthinking rage, the Sultan accepted the lie and issued the decree for his wife's public disgrace. But the sisters failed to account for the canal's path. The children were rescued by the royal gardener and raised in secret, growing up within the palace grounds while their mother suffered at the mosque gates. The sisters' treason relied on this specific disconnect. They severed the royal lineage, effectively deleting the heirs from history and replacing them with a narrative of monstrous births. Years later, the 3 children, Bahman, Perviz, and Parizadeh, have grown into highly educated nobles. They are masters of science and history, yet they remain entirely unaware of the bloodline they represent. When their adoptive father dies, the secret of their birth seems lost forever. They live in isolation on their country estate, far from the intrigue of the capital. Their quiet life is interrupted by a wandering holy woman. She informs Princess Parizade that despite the estate's beauty, it lacks 3 essential treasures that would make it perfect. She describes a talking bird that can speak with human wisdom, a singing tree that plays constant music, and golden water that acts as an eternal fountain. Parizade becomes obsessed with finding these items. This quest for a bird, a tree, and a fountain unwittingly places her on a collision course with the royal secret that has kept her family in exile. The brothers attempt the climb first, relying on their training as warriors to force their way to the summit, but they are overcome by invisible voices and paralyzing fear. They turn to look back and are instantly transformed into black stone. Parizade observes their failure and realizes that brute force is useless against a psychological trap. She adopts a strategic, analytical approach to the mountain. To bypass the mountain's primary weapon, fear induced by sound, she blocks her ears with cotton. This simple tactical move renders the mountain's illusions powerless. She reaches the summit, captures the wise talking bird, and uses the golden water to revive her brothers. By identifying the mountain's mechanism, she secures the bird, an oracle capable of exposing the Sultan's past. This success demonstrated that strategic intellect and emotional discipline could overcome obstacles where traditional force failed, providing Parizade with the psychological leverage needed to confront the Sultan. The final stage of the resolution begins when the brothers encounter their biological father, the Sultan, during a hunt. Unaware of the connection, they invite him to their estate for a banquet. Before the Sultan arrives, Parizade consults the talking bird. On its advice, she prepares a dinner menu designed not for nourishment, but for a specific psychological confrontation. When the Sultan sits down to eat, he is served a dish of cucumbers stuffed with solid pearls. The Sultan is immediately annoyed, calling the dish an impossible absurdity. He tells Parizade that no one can be expected to believe a cucumber would be filled with jewels. This reaction is the final piece of Parizade's trap. The absurdity of the dish is meant to mirror the absurdity of the lie the Sultan has believed for 20 years. The talking bird speaks up, delivering the final blow to the Sultan's logic. It asks him how he can find a pearl-stuffed cucumber impossible, yet easily believed that a human woman gave birth to a dog and a cat. As the Sultan looks at the 3 young nobles before him, The timeline of his sister's story begins to unravel. He recognizes the children he thought were lost. The Sultan's retribution is immediate. He orders the arrest and execution of the two sisters who orchestrated the theft of his children and the ruin of his wife. The Sultan personally goes to the mosque, frees his wife from her wooden prison, and leads a royal procession to restore her as sultana. The family is finally reunited in a public celebration of the truth. The sisters' conspiracy succeeded for 2 decades because it was never challenged by a logical mind. It took a coordinated strategy and a single undeniable truth to dismantle the lie and restore the Persian throne.